Hello and welcome to Inside Iraq. I'm Jassim Azzawi. Corruption in Kurdistan is sapping the lives of millions of poor Kurds. The worsening condition has prompted newspaper editors, university professors and Kurdish civil society to condemn the culture of corruption. The newly appointed Prime Minister Barham Saleh has promised a new start. Defenders of the Kurdistan regional government downplay the level of corruption and attribute it to a few bad apples. Critics of the government blame the two ruling families, Barzani and Talbani, as the real cause of this cancer.
Erbil, the capital of Iraqi Kurdistan, an island of apparent safety and prosperity within a country still in upheaval. Compared to the violence elsewhere in Iraq, this city seems like a model of progress and democracy, the kind of Iraq the US troops want to leave behind. It looks and sounds like a boomtown, with cranes littering the skyline and thousands of houses coming online. But behind the facade is this: poverty and a lack of basic services, like sewage treatment and electricity.
The electricity cuts happen all the time. Sometimes we only have power for a couple of hours, and that's at night.
It's hard to believe this is happening here, in a region rich with oil. The Kurds say by the end of this year, they could produce 200,000 barrels a day, about 10% of Iraq's current output. But Kurdistan's future prosperity is at the mercy of one serious enemy, and that's corruption. Allegations of bribery, shady deals, and millions of budget money disappearing into private pockets. Critics claim the rot goes all the way to the top, the region's two ruling parties, two ruling families. The Kurdish Democratic Party, headed by the regional president Masoud Barzani, and the Patriotic Union of Kurdistan, led by the Iraqi president Jalal Talabani.
If you are not a member of one of these political parties, you have no chance to be minister, to be member of the parliament, to be general director, and even you have no opportunity to get any ordinary job.
Businessmen too say to get a contract, you have to work with a company affiliated with one of the political parties, and bribes must be paid to close the deal. It was the fury against this dominance of the ruling parties of business and politics that drove the Kurds to vote for a new party called Change, that came third in recent regional elections. And although the government promises to further scrutinize public finances and monitor the building of roads and schools, it admits it could be years before they root out the culture of graft. Rosa Bragimova for Inside Iraq.
To discuss corruption in the Kurdistan regional government, I am joined from Erbil by Mohammed Ihsan, the Kurdistan regional government representative in Baghdad, and from London by Kamal Majid, Professor Emeritus at the University of Cardiff in the UK. Gentlemen, welcome to Inside Iraq. Mohammed Ihsan, let me start with you. Observers of the Kurdistan regional government, outsiders as well as insiders, they have been shocked by the level of corruption. This is surely not what the Kurds bargained for when they established this enclave in northern Iraq.
First of all, I would like to confirm that corruption today in an international world is one of the greatest social evils in our time. And it's seriously a negative phenomenon at an international level. But the level which is, the description which has been provided for Kurdistan is truly exaggerated. It's not like that. And if we look at the history of the areas and what we've been through and the fast transactions from central government to federal government, from so many different sorts of governments, a layer of governments in the country, and what has happened in Baghdad after 2003, it affected the region because we are part of Iraq. But I think personally, there is huge exaggeration about what is going on in Kurdistan about corruption. But at the same time, I cannot say that there is no corruption. No, we accept there is corruption, and we know the cause of it, and we are doing our best to sort out this issue. And at the same time, we have to say that there is huge exaggeration about this phenomena, although it becomes an international phenomena all over the world.
Dr. Kamal Majid, Mohammed Ihsan has repeated the word exaggerated 3 times. I don't know anybody as knowledgeable as you about the Kurdish affairs. You've been observing the area for almost 50 years. What is your take about the corruption level in Kurdistan, especially at KRG?
When we talk about corruption, we are not talking about little things or little people. We are talking about Masoud Barzani and Jalal Talabani. When Masoud Barzani invests $500 million in Swiss banks with the use of, with the help of Ed Rogers, an associate of President Bush, when he has the Hook as a center for smuggling cigarettes to Syria, Turkey, Iraq, and Iran, when he makes deals with oil companies such as Talisman and receives $220 million, when a company like Nokan, which is a PUK company, controls 760 dunams of land from Tui Melik in Suleimania to Goja, and a further 200,000 square meters, when the government of Kurdistan, the KRG in Suleimania and Erbil take over land from major places like the Ministry of Defense, like Ministry of Industry, Ministry of Trade and Education. We are not talking about Tapans Halfpenny corruption. We are talking about large-scale corruption committed by Masoud Barzani personally and Jalal Talabani personally.
Mohammed Ihsan, the man does not mince his words. He went for the jugular. He went to the two heads. Jalal Talabani, really, Masoud Barzani. He gave you incidents, he gave you names, and he gave you facts.
With all my respects to Dr. Kamal, but I can confirm it for you and for all the audience of Jazeera that Masoud Barzani personally, he has no account and he has never ever had single penny in his accounts. And it's known to all Kurds that that man personally, he is not aware of anything regarding to economy or anything regarding to financial, and he has no interest in it, really. What has been mentioned to Dr. Kamal, I think things when it gets out from Kurdistan until it gets out to London or to Edinburgh, it is so exaggerated, and the facts not only been always been transferred. But then again, Mohammed
Ihsan, these accusations, these observations are not limited to Dr. Kamal Majid. Newspapers in Erbil and newspapers in Suleimania, and more importantly, there were several riots because of the corruption that happened. And civil society talking about abuse of power and abuse of office and money disappearing.
Mr. Azawi, let me give me a floor that at least to defend myself.
Go ahead.
Or at least to defend these people.
Go ahead.
First of all, cigarette today, it's international market. No one can produce cigarettes here and transfer it to any other country without border control, without serious country involved in it, or without the monitoring of international cigarette companies. At the same time, what's been mentioned by Dr. Kamal, like having $500 million in Swiss bank, really, I think this is not true. And
no, that is in Financial Times. That was reported in the Financial Times. And the company is headed by Ed Rogers of President.
Ed Rogers, Ed Rogers himself, that company was representing KRG, was making lobbies for KRG in Washington.
No, it was representing Masoud Barzani. The company is representing Masoud Barzani according to the Financial Times.
It's not true. It's not true, Mr. Kamal. It's not
well,
true.
Of course you deny it. Of course you deny it. So does Barham. But I know Barham himself is a corrupt man. Barham was my student. I know Barham himself is a corrupt person. He has controlled large areas of land in Suleimania. And the company of Nokan. These are not statements. The fact that Masoud Barzani is smuggling cigarettes in the Hague is by Chris Rogers of International Herald Tribune and The Guardian. These are not words mentioned by ear or heard by ear. These are facts published in respectable newspapers like the Herald Tribune, The Guardian, and The Times of London.
Here's a question, Mohammed. If these accusations are not correct, perhaps The legal thing and the logical thing would do is for the KRG to lodge a lawsuit against the Financial Times and the Herald Tribune.
We can do that against Financial Times, and we can do that against Dr. Kamal himself if it's not true. But I think that's not the right way when you are talking to audience without having serious facts to defend yourself, or at least to present it to your audience.
The Financial Times is serious facts.
In that case, let me give you a recent incident.
You're not even allowing me to talk. The Financial Times, I have got the Financial Times at home. It is a fact. It has published.
Kamal, hold on just a second.
Hedges has published it in the Guardian. I can give you the dates now.
Let me.
These are not my statements.
Gentlemen,
you cannot accuse me of anything.
Gentlemen, hold on just a second. Let me bring to the table the new incident that is recently it has unfolded, and that is the question of the DNO, the Norwegian oil company. We don't want to go into a lot of details, but what has emerged recently that KRG Minister Ashti Horani, as well as perhaps even the government itself, was quite knowledgeable or aware about what is happening, to the degree that the Prime Minister, Nouri al-Maliki, is thinking about having a lawsuit against Mr. Ashti Horani.
That incident about DNO, it was something internal with DNO's board of directors. It's been cleared in Oslo, and it's been discussed in Kurdistan, and it's been discussed in Baghdad, and they sort out the problem. Mr. Hawrami himself, he was not part of any corruption deal in that case. And I think Mr. Hawrami is one of the great people who served this country, who served Iraq, who managed by his policy to produce, to start with 100,000 barrels of oil a day without costing regional government or federal government single penny to produce and to help Iraqis at such critical economical condition.
If Norway have actually suspended the share dealings of DNO exactly because of that. The fact is that DNO was in financial difficulty, and Ashti Hawrami intervened with benefits to himself to sell $30 million worth of shares to a Turkish government, General Energy, and that is now established and published by newspapers and by the Oslo Stock Exchange.
Mohammed Ihsan, let us move just a little bit. You must admit with me that millions of Kurds, their lots did not change. They are still poor. This is not exactly what they are bargaining for, despite the billions of dollars that is coming into the KRG coffers from Baghdad. And yet, electricity in Duhok and Erbil and Suleimania is no better than Baghdad and Basra. People are still living below the poverty line. Can you tell me that every single penny spent by the KRG is going to the benefit of the poor people in Kurdistan?
I am telling you first, no, the condition in Duhok and Erbil and Suleimania is 1,000,000 times much better than the condition in Basra and Baghdad and anywhere else in the country. They have electricity much better. I am not satisfied with the service with the level of the service we are providing for the people. Still, we have to do much and much and much for our people. But there is no way to compare our condition in KRG to the rest of the country. And the 17% which is coming to KRG, it's under the monitoring of auditing center of Baghdad for single penny. Single penny coming to Kurdistan. We have auditing center and auditing organization coming from Baghdad, and at the same time we have another auditing level which is supervising and monitoring the spending policy in KRG by such
How about that, Dr. Kamal? Every single penny spent in Kurdistan is monitored, and we know exactly what is going on.
Organizations.
To the degree that Barham Saleh has said, we are going to fight.
If he gives me a chance, I will tell him that, in fact, when Bremer gave $1.8 billion to Masoud Barzani, the United Nations asked to inspect the books of KDP, and KDP refused to show them the books. This is also in the Financial Times. So therefore, he cannot, and at any rate, everybody knows that there isn't actually a budget published by the Kurdish governments, either in Sulaimania or in Erbil.
But to the
So to tell us that the books are open is just a dream of his own. Plus the fact, I agree with him fully, that in fact the corruption is not just confined to the Kurdish area, but also to the entire Iraq. In fact, Iraq, including the Kurdish area, is the second worst, right at the bottom. There's only one country which is worse than Iraq when it comes to corruption.
And yet,
I agree with him that corruption is rife. But when Masoud Barzani is actually, during the sanction on Iraq, started charging protection money, they call it tax, in Ibrahim Khalil on every lorry smuggling goods from Turkey to Iraq and from Iraq to Turkey, that was not straightforward, decent work, because he was doing it and collecting $1 million a day, according to Jalal Talabani himself, that he was collecting $1 million a day, and that is not written in any budget or books that Mr. Ihsan is talking about.
First of all, it's not nice from Dr. Kamal to accuse President Barzani, because don't forget that President Barzani is representing at least 87% of Kurds. And by his word, by his accusation, I can take him to court even in UK.
he is your boss. You would say that, wouldn't you, Mohammed Ihsan?
Second thing, the Ibrahim Khalil funds, which we were depending on, all Kurdistan were depending on money which is coming from Ibrahim Khalil for the area of just 1992 until 1998. Third thing, which has been mentioned by Dr. Kamal, about 1.4 billion, it was part of the 4 billion money which is being corrupted and stolen by UN oil for fund programs, which we worked very hard as a KRG. We fought for that in Washington and in New York to get that fund for Kurdistan, and by that fund we managed to build 2 airports, switch system for the area, and all that money was open for auditing organization in Baghdad, and I'm aware of it. So many times we received delegation from Baghdad, coming from Baghdad, not UN, because UN as part of corrupted organization at that time, and they were leading the most corrupted program, which costs Iraq roughly about $69 billion between 1991 and 2003. We managed that one.
You have said something very important, Mohammed Ihsan. I would like to bring it to the attention of Kamal Majid. He just threatened you with a lawsuit. That happens on television. It means absolutely nothing. But what is important, Dr. Kamal Majid, is that many university professors, many newspaper editors, and many ordinary people in Kurdistan, not only they have been threatened by the Asayish and by the Peshmerga, but some of them, they have disappeared. I'm asking you the following question, Kamal Majid. What has been the price of people who have raised their voice against the KRG?
He definitely threatened, and that is nothing new, because they have actually, that is nothing new, because that is their method. They try to eliminate people, as they did with Arsalan Mahmoud, the newspaper man, like Soran Mahama, that Ahmed Mira, that Nabaz Goran, and as they actually kidnap people like Badran Mustafa, Hidayat Aziz Ahmed, Wahid Hussein Amin.
That list is going to be extremely long. I don't have time for that, Kamal Majid.
It is all by Amnesty International. Amnesty International has published these names that they have disappeared because
Let him answer.
Let him. First of all, Dr. Kamal, with all my respect, I am not threatening you. I told you it's not nice to accuse people.
Did.
No, you just said I could take you to court.
And I said that if you accuse people like that, they can take you to court, which is normal thing.
He did not say you are a thief. He did not say you are a liar. He did not say
you are accusing Masoud Barzani for having 500
his right as a citizen.
That is Financial Times.
I'm talking as a citizen. I am not spokesman. I'm not spokesman for anything. The other things, the name which is you mentioned that, like Nabaz Goran and the rest, They are working freely in Kurdistan, and Nabaz Guran every day he is publishing a long article criticizing the government, and we welcome that. This is not correct. Unfortunately, we have some people that are living in so isolated area, dreaming about Kurdistan.
Mohammed Ihsan, let me stop you for just a second, because the level of accusation is not limited to ordinary people or just newspapers. Powerful historical figure like Nushirwan Mustafa, the longtime friend and comrades of Jalal Talbani, not only he piled accusation after accusations about the president, but about the PUK and the KDP, and he established a new party called The Change. He won 25% of the votes in Kurdistan.
This is very normal. This is a proof that we have democracy. This is a proof that things are moving ahead. Things are moved, that we are moving to the right direction. To have opposition, this is the healthiest democracy we are talking about in the Middle East. To have people who are talking about unrespectful phenomena in the country like corruption, this is a sign of democracy. To have free media,
how about that, Kamal Majid? Corruption and talking about corruption is a sign of the progress and democracy. This is a new theory. What do you think?
No, actually I am quoting Amnesty International of 14th of April 2009. They have actually kidnapped people called Badran Mustafa, Hidayat Aziz Ahmed, Wahid Hussein Amin, Farhang Ahmed Aziz, Hoshyar Saleh Hama'arif, Karim Ahmed Mahmoud, and two of his sons, and his brother Arslan. These are people who have actually been kidnapped and disappeared. This is Amnesty International. I am not saying anything. I am not making any accusation of my own. Everything I said about 1.4 billion, it is in the Financial Times. It has been published. I have got the date for it here. It has been published, and it is Ed Rogers, who is a member of the Republican Party with President Bush, who have formed a company and are investing this
Kamal
in
Majid,
the name of Masoud Barzani in Switzerland.
Before
this
he answers that,
statement.
Kamal
this
Majid,
is Financial Times.
Let me just bring the subject of Barham Saleh. After appointing him as a prime minister, he is on record to say that corruption is rampant in Kurdistan, and we are going to expunge this cancer. So there is an admission. It's not saying these are a few bad apples, but says it's extremely rampant.
As I told you, Mr. Azawi, we said that, and we acknowledge that we have corruption. There is corruption in Iraq. There is corruption in Kurdistan. We are part of the country. But here in Kurdistan, I said, and I'm going to repeat it again for you, there is exaggeration about it, and at the same time, we have serious actions being taken by the government, by the former government, or by current government to combat corruption and to limit it and to fight it till the end. We are in progress. Our condition much better than before, but at the same time, we acknowledge that there is corruption, but not on the level as such dreamers are living in London or somewhere else, exaggerating about what is going on and having wrong accusations.
Since you mentioned the dreamer from London, I'm going to give him the last word. Go ahead, dreamer.
Well, I'm not really dreaming. I'm actually using facts, which has been published in reputable newspapers. And Barham Saleh, I know Barham Saleh personally because he was my student. He used to come to our house, and I know that he was corrupt even then. I know him, he was corrupt, and I begged him not to do what he did when he became a representative of PUK in New York. I asked him to work like a decent engineer. He refused, and he has now built himself a big house in Suleymania with all the roads surrounding it well paved, and he can't talk about fighting corruption because he will be fighting little men while he protects the big men.
Kamal Majid, Mohammed Ihsan, gentlemen, thank you for being guests on Inside Iraq.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
To watch the show online, please visit our website, aljazeera.net/English. We have reached the end of this show. Join me next week when we take another look inside Iraq. Until then, this is Jassim Azawi bidding you farewell.